Hey guys, welcome back. We're gonna talk about episode 4 of The Penguin today, and I actually thought this was one of the most solid episodes by far. This episode definitely gave a backstory. It's definitely not everyone's speed, but when it comes to Sophia Falcone, she took center in this episode, and it gave us the gap between her position in the Falcone family from before, and then it showed what happened to her leading up to her ending up in Arkham, and what happened during that, and what happened after that. So it sort of bridged the gap between, or within, Sophia Falcone's character, and it gave us a little bit of insight into the Penguin's involvement in that. So at this point, the episode basically starts from back then, and what's interesting is in the scenes in the past, we get a little bit of Penguin's sort of his reasoning behind his betrayal. But when it comes to scenes in the present, which it only gives us just a little bit at the end, Penguin isn't in the scenes in the present at all. He's only in the scenes in the past. So this episode was the focus for Sophia Falcone, but I think Penguin did have a good role to play, and I think overall this episode is going to help set up the Penguin versus Sophia Falcone storyline, because so far he's sort of been playing Sophia for a fool, and now that they're both up to speed with what's been going on, I think we're going to have some very interesting episodes moving forward as we get closer to the season finale. So, when Sophia Falcone sort of had this party, it was her father's birthday party, we get that is where sort of the episode takes place, but we get flashes of when Sophia was a child, she saw her mother commit suicide in front of her. So she thought. So the story behind that is this reporter comes to Sophia begging her to take a look at what she has, and she presents Sophia with information of multiple women that worked for her father that have ended up committing suicide. But the thing is, they all show signs that there's a struggle, and they all have their fingernails with blood on it. So it's very much not a suicide, but that's what the Falcones use as the cover-up story. So when Sophia finds out about this, that the other people within her father's business are ending up dead, she has memories that that basically her father killed her mother. Her mother had blood on her fingernails, and there were the signs of struggle on her throat. So as a kid, she didn't process things the way they really were, but she's realizing now that her father had her mother killed for a reason they don't necessarily explain, and I don't think they really needed to. We get another actor in for Carmine Falcone, but he gives or gets minimal screen time, so I think the change in actors wasn't as big of a deal as I've heard some have suggested it was. I think this actor really played the part well enough to show the different side of Carmine Falcone, which is the kind we needed for this type of episode. And so when the reporter is having her conversation with Sophia Falcone, Penguin witnesses this. He's Sophia's driver at this point. So at some point between them driving away and the party, Penguin fills in Falcone about what's been going on, and he has Sophia sent away. He sends Penguin to send her to take her home. The cops show up, arrest her, and ultimately, this is where she just gets screwed. So, not only was the reporter found dead, killed the same way as the other woman, Carmine is now pinning all of this on Sophia, using her mother's suicide as her reason for going insane. So she is being pushed to Arkham because of this, and so that's where she gets the nickname the Hangman. She has hung all these women, even though it's Carmine's crimes. And so he signs this letter to the judge saying that she's insane. Pretty much the entire Falcone family supports Carmine's decision. And so she's sent to Arkham. And we get to see really the brutality of Arkham, which there really is no safe, fun version of Arkham in really any DC projects. But this one was pretty brutal. It is essentially just torture, senseless torture. And that's sort of what Arkham's always been, but in this version we see in the Penguin, we can see why people would become the Joker or become Harley Quinn or Sophia Falcone to turn out the way she did. So I think they represent Arkham in a well enough way in this show to sort of propel the stories they want to push forward. And so this Dr. Julian Rush, he has been seen in previous episodes as Sophia's therapist. So in these flashbacks, we now know that he worked at Arkham. He had ultimately quit, but not before Sophia got out. So Sophia believes that he sort of abandoned her, and well, it sounds like he kind of did. And so we actually get a cameo from Magpie, who I had to do a little bit more research. She hasn't been seen in really not much at all. So her presence in the show was sort of a surprise to many people. And so it was interesting that she was included ultimately in this TV show. Sophia kills her. This is the one kill that she claims as her own up until this point. And so this sort of solidifies her stay at Arkham. And she stays at Arkham for 10 years. And the story is after Carmine Falcone was murdered, then Penguin killed Alberto, Sophia's back. I think the background story is once Carmine was killed, they didn't care to keep Sophia, so they just released her. So they haven't specifically said that, but I think that's part of the story. And so she was in Arkham for 10 years, and she got out. She got rehabilitated for whoever it was that signed off on that. So now when we finally get scenes in the present, when she realized that Penguin is the one that killed Alberto, she called Julian Rush. She wakes up now the next day. Julian had taken care of her, gave her clothes, gave her food, gave her shelter, helped her heal. He's just been the only guy being helpful to her, even though she doesn't trust him one bit. And so he wants her to go on to Italy for herself, not for her family, but she decides to take matters into her own hands. And so they're celebrating whatever they're celebrating. Sophia shows up at the Falcone house, estate, mansion, whichever term you prefer to use, and she sort of addresses them all, and she doesn't really hold back one bit when she's giving her speech, practically dissing every single one of them. She takes Gia, this little girl who's too young to really understand how the family works, much like Sophia was at one point. Gia is sent to bed, and during the night, after her speech and theatrics, Sophia goes to Gia saying, let's go sleep in the greenhouse. Now, having a greenhouse in Gotham, a lot of people are going to speculate, could Gia be the beginnings of a Poison Ivy story, or could the Poison Ivy story come from this location? I don't know. I think it's probably there just to be a nod, something to keep the audience guessing. I don't think it has to be Poison Ivy comes from this greenhouse, but maybe she could. You never know. But the point in this episode is she takes Gia away from the house, and we don't know exactly why, but we can tell Sophia's going to do something. And as the next morning comes, Gia wakes. Sophia told her to go back to sleep, and she checks on the house, and she has this gas mask on and sees member by member the family dead. When she finally gets to the engine room, that's what I'm going to call it, we see that she sort of altered the ventilation system to be poisonous. Of course, one room was sealed off, which was Johnny Vitti, and Sophia shows up to Johnny Vitti at the end of this episode with a weapon and says, we need to talk. This is how the episode ends. So I'm thinking, even though it's all speculation at this point, Johnny Vitti will be Sophia's new hangman for going after not only Penguin, but perhaps the Maronis too. So we'll see what happens. But this episode gave us a lot of insight into Sophia's past, why she's so aggressive, why she's not trusting anyone, why she specifically didn't trust Penguin. Penguin's the one that essentially sent her to Arkham, basically. even though Carmine was the one that did it. And so we just have a lot of complexities to the characters, to the overall stories. The Maronis don't really have a lot of competition anymore, except for Sophia alone. But the thing with Penguin, the thing I'm looking forward to going into the next episode, is Penguin has, as far as his story has been concerned, he's always worked for the Falcons. So now that he's pissed off the one Falcone in power, I don't know who he's going to turn to. He'll probably try to suck up to the Maronis. He'll probably try to work with them, but we'll see what happens, because I don't see the Maronis lasting too long, just given the direction that this franchise has treated them. In the movies, they were sort of background characters. They've already come and gone. And in the series, they have more of a presence, but it's still the background presence compared to the Falcons up until this point. So perhaps they will take over, but if they try, Sophia's not just going to let them. And if Penguin's not on their side, he's not just going to let them. So there's now a three-way power struggle, as it has been, but instead of the Falcone family, it is now just Sophia Falcone. So I'm very much excited to see what's going to happen with the rest of these next few episodes, the rest of the season. I'm really loving the series so far. I think there's a lot of stories that can be progressed forward into not only the next movie, but another TV show or the movie after the next. So I think this just has a lot of longevity that is being structured within the show. That's bleeding into the rest of the franchise. So I'm very much looking forward to the rest of it. I like this episode. If you did, let me know in the comments what do you think. If you didn't like it, tell me why. I want to know. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you for tuning with me for the rest of this review of episode 4. I'll see you all next time.